Welcome to a nourishing midweek lunch hour conversation with Spokane's newsmakers, thought leaders, and popular entertainers. Spokane Talks Live is brought to you by our friends at Homes for You and Breakthrough Incorporated. Welcome to Spokane Talks Live. Welcome to Spokane Talks Live today. Kent Adams here. It's the 14th of March. Where did January and February go? And half of March. Can you believe it? Hey, I've got an old friend. Well, he's old because he's gaining up on years with me. Jeff Holy, who is the current state representative for the 6th District. Just finished the legislative session, and he's got something else up his sleeve for this fall. We'll talk about that. And then we're going to just kind of talk about weather and whatever else is going on. And speaking of weather, Connor's calling the weather next on Spokane Talks Live.
Hello Spokane, this is Connor from Spokane Talks Online with your 5-day weather forecast. Today is going to be rainy with a high of 50 degrees, while tonight looks to clear out with a low of 33. Tomorrow we could see mostly cloudy skies with a high of 50, and then mostly cloudy skies for overnight with a low of 32. Friday will bring mostly cloudy skies with a high of 51, while the low will be 32. Saturday we could see a chance for showers, about 30% chance, but it's going to be mostly cloudy with a high of 49. Same thing Saturday night with a low of 33. Sunday we could see an increasing chance of showers with about a 40 to 50% chance. High will be near 50, while Sunday night will clear out with a low of 31. This is Connor with your 5-day weather forecast. Have a good day.
For the Inland Northwest's most comprehensive sports report, think outside the porch with Spokesman.com. For just 99 cents for the first month, you'll enjoy unlimited digital access to the news and sports news that affect you most. From EWU to WSU, from Northwest Preps all the way to the Seahawks, we're the local authority that makes sports in the Inland Northwest different than the rest, better than the rest. On your phone, on your desktop, and on your tablet. Subscribe to the digital experience with Spokesman.com.
See you tomorrow night, and thanks again for taking care of the painting.
I got this.
Bye.
Weekends are made for painting. Let the experts at Rada Paint take care of you.
Hi. This looks amazing.
Rada Paint, over 80 years of quality, tradition, and trust. Find it in every can.
Well, it's the 14th of March. St. Patty's Day is coming up on Saturday. How often do we actually have St. Patty's Day on Saturday so we can have the parade and drinking and everything else on a Saturday, which helps out because not a lot of church going on Sunday morning because people are going to sleep in. Okay, trying to be serious. No, I'm not. I'm not serious. Jeff Holy, how are you? We were just talking about my crutch, which is I printed out a note of who my guests are. In this case, I could probably remember without having to look at the notes. And I mentioned in the old days when I did some stuff that I would use a marks a lot, and your comment was, how many people would have no idea what you're talking about, meaning a marks a lot? Well, okay. You did. I noticed you knew right away.
In your introduction, you said that I'm old. That makes you ancient. There's a gap there.
No, and that's true. I call my sister, who turned 65 this June, old. I'll turn 72, and she calls me ancient. So, yeah, I think you and my sister have been talking.
Yeah, but you're good-looking still.
Yeah, right.
You compensate for it.
Obviously, we have a legislator who has eye issues here. So, Jeff, you and I go back. We were talking during the break. I actually worked with your wife, Cindy.
You did.
She was helping us raise funds and doing marketing and so forth way back,
Yes.
up 25 years ago.
Better than that.
Yeah, much better looking than you, but you don't disagree with me.
No, not
And
at
I
all.
remember that the first time I called out there to ask her something about a project we were working on, and here's this policeman who answers the phone. Who is this? What do you want Cindy for? And you're an ex-policeman now, so I mean, but that's how I first met you.
That's a different lifetime. You know, there's a little bit different effect there than there is these days.
Yeah.
On that. And by the way, I didn't know who you were, and I didn't know what you wanted.
Okay, yeah, well.
And Cindy's a good-looking woman.
She is.
Well,
she is. And even better than good looking, she's just a really good person.
Yeah, she is.
And you guys, both of you, have raised two very successful kids. You're
Thank you.
blessed. Obviously, they took after her. You've got one back east. What did you let your daughter go back east for?
Well, my daughter's got married a couple years ago here. She graduated from WSU along with her husband, now husband. He got accepted to dental school at New York University. The third year dental back there, and living on Manhattan Island. And what better than to be young, married, living on Manhattan Island?
Yeah. Well, I can think of a few things, but anyway. And your son, I got a kick out of when we were talking on the phone a couple days or a week ago, and you were calling from the west side or the wet side, and you were having lunch or dinner or something with your son, and mentioned that he's over there now permanently working.
He is.
Yeah.
So
you've just, well, they all have fled home and gone and done their things, haven't they?
I have better kids than I deserve, and most of the credit goes to Cindy. Seriously.
Yeah.
It just, she's the kind of mother that everybody would have loved to have had and everybody wants to have.
Yeah. Just the nicest person. So please say hi, okay?
Will do.
I'm sure she's either watching or will watch this later and to laugh louder at me than she will at you. A lot of things have happened. What now, 2 weeks ago, Michael Baumgartner said, I've had enough of traveling half the year or more to Olympia. He's got kids, growing number of kids at home and everything else. Time to do that, and is going to run for county treasurer in this fall's election. So we'll start to see his name popping up for that. And you've been one of two now House members, you and Mike Volz. And Mike is finishing up his first term, isn't he?
Correct.
Yeah. And you just are finishing now what?
Third
year. Okay.
Yeah,
third term.
Yeah,
right.
6 years.
Right. And so it kind of became natural, given your time and seniority and all of that, to be the obvious person to move into Mike's position. He's endorsed you, and a lot of folks have, yours truly as well. Let's talk about what that means, going from the House, because every district in Washington has 2 House members and 1 Senate member. What is that, what change are you anticipating once you're elected?
Kent, that's a 6-pack of beer conversation.
Okay. Did you bring them?
Let's hit just a couple of high points here. One of them is the fact that you only have 49 instead of 98, and so your leverage increases and able to help the district and affect the state outcomes proportionally by 50% across the board. The other part is that there's a different culture over there.
Okay.
And it's a lot more direct, and you have a lot more people that are very free with their ideas, and it's not so much not a team culture.
Yeah.
But there's a degree of autonomy there and an expectation that people will be individual and bring good ideas to the table individually without actually running them through leadership or committees, this kind of thing. So there's almost more of a dynamic in the Senate than there is in the House. And I have to tell you,
I'm hearing that you're looking forward to that opportunity.
I love that. It just, my
gosh. But has the House been a good training ground, a good step, if you will, to where you're going?
I've loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, after the first 5 years of being a cop, other than undercover stuff back the early to mid-'90s, there's about a 5-year period and things start to cycle again. You see, and so you kind of let off a little bit and you maybe expose your B game instead of your A game.
Yeah.
I retired 12 years ago in 06.
You were an attorney.
I'm
an
attorney
your law
now,
degree,
yes.
all of that.
Yeah, so I started working with Rob Cossey's group and Rob and doing some of the civil work out of the office.
Okay.
And I have to tell you, the repeats, the familiarity was 6 months out, and all of a sudden I'm seeing the same patterns.
Yes.
Being an ADD kind of a kid, and not like you don't
Never
understand
noticed
it.
that
Yeah,
in you.
seriously. Yeah, or you. But it's one of those things that I just didn't have it got stale kind of quick, and this opportunity came up in the oddest way for the House. And from day one I walked in there, the people are so good, there's so much money, the level of play is so high, and the dynamics are so sometimes brutal that if you turn away, you're left behind. I mean, it's just your A game every minute, every day.
Don't go for coffee.
Oh, amen. Yeah, the world can change under your feet. And so Gosh, it's one of those things that I've absolutely cherished the time I've had there.
Yeah.
The last part of this last session, I could start seeing the patterns again. How do you put it? You move from an apprentice into a journeyman status, and I'm just thinking, this is kind of an interesting moment here because I understand what to anticipate, and it's happening.
Yeah. And where's the excitement? Where's the new challenge?
Well, this is one of those things that all of a sudden I've got something thrown into me. I'm 62 years old. I'm going to be a freshman next year if I win the election. I'll be a freshman. It's just. So yes, this is one of those things that the dynamics in front of me are both make me a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they're wonderful to have that kind of a pressure out there again.
You're kind of like me in some ways. I think it's probably that ADD stuff, in that you can kind of get tired of some things and look for that next challenge. Maybe a little faster than the person who decides that maybe that's their career in that one spot. I remember when I left the chamber to go work at Washington Water Power, this is 38, 39 years ago, and a lot of my friends said, "Oh, you've got a job for life." And I'm going, I've never thought about it that way. And, within a year and a half, I had created my own new job there,
right,
and new title and all that. And that was the fun of it. And I reached a point after 13 years of doing pretty much, okay, it's time to go do something else. And I did. And my wife asked me, a few years back when I retired, I don't know how to spell the word, so I use retired. She said, have you enjoyed your jobs over the years? And my answer was, yes, I really have. And if I didn't, and I got bored, I either moved on or I fired them and moved on. I mean, it's time to do something different. She also said, you don't have many hobbies. And my point to that was, but I have really enjoyed my work because I have felt in many cases it's helping other people, doing things for the community and so forth, being a police officer, being an attorney or whatever. And in a sense, I worked those extra hours, if you will, because it was fun and I felt like I contributed. And I think we need that. I've got a friend whose friend reached 65, took over their parents' or dad's accounting business, did accounting, made a good living, is retiring and admitted to my friend Tom that he never really enjoyed his work. How sad that we go through life and not enjoy what we're doing and be able to go. So you continue to have that, and it's probably a little more flexible now that the kids are over and gone and so forth. But what does Cindy say about your being gone so much? Because that's a fact of life.
That, the woman is a saint for putting up with it. I'm not even being cute about that.
No.
I've got a 180-foot of gravel driveway that's uphill to the road, and we're on the lee side on a hilltop, and the snow blows.
Yeah.
and she'll get out and shovel, and the kids aren't home anymore to to keep her company or have that in and out when they're in undergrad.
Do you at least have a dog at home?
I've got a black lab that thinks he owns the place.
Okay, well, they
do. They do.
Okay.
And it's just, it's one of those things to where she is, when she says no more, I will immediately honor that, because she's been so gracious so far in this.
And we forget that about the spouses of folks who serve in government, too, because they give up so much for that other person, because it really is about that elected person. I mean, it really is. Yes, the spouse gets to go to a few things or forced to go to a few things, but it's, in your case, it's about you in Olympia and you here representing folks and so forth. And it's not about your spouse.
Well, thus the fiction that being a state legislator is a part-time citizen legislator job.
Yeah.
Far from it.
So you're announced candidate for the Senate.
I did. I filed my C1. I'm official.
Okay. So what happens next, Mr. Candidate?
Well, that's kind of a funny moment. I have had an apparatus in place for the House because I've had an infrastructure in place. And you understand. You've played this game before. All my signs, all my Slim Jims. So
you're going to get the marks a lot out and put Senate instead of
House.
Oh,
my gosh. I completely went back to zero, filing an SS4. And getting an EIN number for a whole new committee. I'm starting at ground zero again here. And I forgot how much work that is.
Yeah. You know a good attorney?
I do. I know several good attorneys here, but that's kind of the value of knowing these things, having a license and having practiced law, is that I can do all this stuff myself. I don't have to tap friends to do the dirty work.
Right.
So,
okay, let's talk a little bit about this last session. It seems like we got away without too much damage, and I say that as a taxpayer. But what's your assessment in terms of what was passed and some things that weren't passed that apparently are going to go to initiative? And you know what I'm talking about, the carbon tax.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
we've got.
Here goes an hour, folks.
No, I mean that's another one. Wow, what a broad question, Counselor.
Yeah.
The two things happened that are really good. The carbon energy tax went away, and the capital gains income tax went away on that.
But for how long?
Well, but I tell you what, if you just, sometimes it's pushing the problem off so you can regroup your forces.
Right.
Every election is an absolute resorting of the deck on that. You shuffle the deck again, you don't know what you're going to come up with.
Okay.
We might end up with one house, we could end up with both houses. I don't know, depending upon, and if you run the House or run the Senate, the majority leader or the Speaker of the House appoints the committee leaders. And the committee leaders turn the taps on and off about what's going to get hearings, what's going to pass, this kind of thing.
Right.
So every session takes a personality in about the first week or so of session. Well, there's like some are frivolous, some are transportation driven, some are obviously capital budget. Oh my gosh, I have to do this. There's kind of a personality that everything takes about the way things are going to flow. This one, we couldn't nail it down. Usually the last, and I'm brutally honest here, but the last 10 days or so, maybe 2 weeks of session, everybody's tired, everybody's ornery. The fist fights have started, about over minutia here and trying to come to concurrence on bills and who's going to be able to do what, who's got which power base, that kind of thing. That degree of tension existed from the very first week.
Really?
This session. This is absolutely amazing.
Which is probably good for us as taxpayers, and that they wanted to stay within the 60 days.
Well, I can hope so. 6 years and 14 sessions kind of indicates that there's a trend otherwise. But so I see just a little bit of a good trend in that everybody else is dynamic. I mean, the Senate had just flipped. The Democrat majority all of a sudden, and they're trying to make up for lost time. Republicans in minority, and you have in the House, obviously Frank Chop is still the longest sitting Speaker of the House. They've got a majority, and they've got the governor's office. They swept the table this time for the first time in 7 years out there. So they're trying to get a lot done. There's a dynamic in the Democratic caucus in the House that is a little bit of a divergence of opinions of the way things should be.
Okay.
That really plays to our advantage. And the Senate, with the one seat, either way, ends up being kind of a little bit of a battleground there, because not everybody lines up and locks up in caucus. And if you have a majority one and not everybody votes the same way, you don't have a majority.
Right.
And so the Republican caucus in the House were almost the adults in the room for every aspect of what was happening on
I've always
campus.
thought that's been the case, but that's a
no,
whole
but
other
it's,
issue.
It's not always that way.
I know,
But it really was this time that we were the only ones that actually were cohesive enough to present as a unit, a group, over and over and over again. So we had grand impact on things along the way here that we thought were done deals that we changed for the better of the citizens
Well,
of the
some
state.
good things happened. The Hearst decision and the opening then up to the capital budget, so we can actually get some things done on the capital side of things. You're right in terms of the carbon tax and the the excise capital gains tax, or whatever they're calling it, which is a misnomer.
It's an income tax.
Yeah,
Right.
it is, and it'll be found unconstitutional, as so many things on the left proposes will become. However, the carbon tax is now looking to be the potential of an initiative.
Right.
And Chris Cargill and I were talking about that yesterday, and my position is that it probably has a half-decent chance of passing, because a lot of folks not really knowing what's involved will go, well, let's pass this because somebody else will have to pay for it. And that's often happens
Let's touch
from
on
the
that.
left, okay?
Let's touch on that. I love that everybody else will have to pay for it. Sound Transit 3.
Yes.
You have people over there, and I'm not being far off the mark when I say there's 10-year-old cars over there that they're having to pay a $1,000 excise tax to have their tabs renewed. Sticker shock, out of the park. We've got the same thing. Have you looked at your property tax increase this year?
Yes, I got my little we talked about that yesterday. Got my little postcard. It went up to the next 1,000.
You think? Okay, so here's the thing, is all of a sudden, everybody's understanding there is somebody else, isn't somebody else is going to pay for it. We're having to pay for this. That sticker shock is catching people's attention. When they talk about a carbon tax, maybe increasing an additional 15 to 20 cents on a gallon of gas.
Yes.
If we talk about having direct impact on natural gas sources out there, anything to do with any coal-based fired anything around. I mean, we are talking or power generation
at a
across
time
the
we're
board.
going to get our rates reduced from Avista and others because of what the president did in terms of reduction of taxes, and now they want to hit from the other side.
Amen.
Yeah,
See, that's
I mean,
the
come
problem.
on.
Everybody's aware of this, though, and I think the best intersect in King County.
So you think the public is starting to get it a bit?
Well, I mean,
I worry
let's
that
be
they're
real
not.
about this. That sometimes there's a 75-mile radius from downtown Seattle that either decides things will happen as a voter base or not in this state.
Right.
And with ST3 and the property tax increase, I've had. Why do you think years ago that Rodney Tom and Tim Sheldon came over in the Senate to join the majority coalition? They're Democrats.
Okay.
Because you have people on Yarrow Bay or Hunts Point, Maidenbower, this kind of thing, Medina, that if they have another basis point increase in their property tax, they're going to have an existential meltdown.
Yes.
These people understand, my God, you know, so all of a sudden, you're finding a trend here where everybody's becoming a fiscal conservative, although they remain socially progressive. That's an interesting dynamic that's occurring.
Yeah.
Talk about, let's go back and give you a reference point on that. So you have 2012. You had in the presidential race, you had everybody in the state, elected in the state was, from insurance commissioner all the way through president, was a Democrat. Concurrently, for the 7th time, we passed the 2/3 supermajority requirement for legislative tax increases. And we're sitting there scratching our heads, and our takeaway is everybody wants everything the Democratic Party promises them, and they don't want to pay for any of it.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, when the tax bill comes home like it has this year, I think there's going to be an awareness out there, and we might start to see a little bit of tax exhaustion to where not everybody's so quickly to believe that someone else is going to pay the bill.
Well, and especially now that more people are getting jobs and everything else, and they're starting to look at a better paycheck and so forth, and you then want to take away more of my money. I mean,
Yes.
You know, it's and all these social programs. I'm one who firmly believes if we have a healthy economy that continues to create jobs, much, not all, but much of our social ills will go away, okay? And that's how we need to solve a lot of it. Now, we also look at what's happened with the shootings and so forth, and it really isn't about gun control. It really is about helping people, okay? Look at some of these students. My wife and I just talked about this morning. Where were the people to help this kid who shot 17? Okay, the signs were there. Even the police department and others knew about it. But what about his peers who saw him and others like him sitting by themselves in the cafeteria, not having the social interactions? And we've all experienced a little of that in our lives, one place or another, where we may not have fit in. But what are we doing? We're not really stepping up and helping those people. And in some cases, we've gotten away from institutionalizing some mental problems, okay? Because we don't want to restrict them. We want them out in the community. There's a price to pay when you do that, okay? And I think we need to re-examine. I don't want to take people's rights away in terms of being independent and all that, just as I don't want to see us take away the gun rights, because it's not about the gun again. Ask Timothy McVeigh, okay? But let's start getting some common sense. One of the things I saw last night, and I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday, on Q6, I believe it was the other night, they featured, without showing the face, a mother who was complaining about her son or daughter, I think it was a son, who was being bullied at school, okay? And why couldn't something be done? Well, what are we as a community doing about that? are we surrounding those kids these days, and others, young adults and others too, with support to be there for them? We've got this idea that government is going to solve the problem when it's really you and me and our neighbors. How do we get back to that? I know I'm going way beyond.
No,
you're
talking about a philosophical
Yes,
aspect
I
of this
am.
that I understand, that when you have the schools become de facto parents and local parentis, there's before school food, there's
or helping to
subsidized
determine
lunches,
what
there's
sex they're going to be
after-school.
at in third grade. I mean,
they're just
come on.
So many things are not. We're both showing our age here.
Yeah, I know.
tell when you talk about these things, everybody wants to focus on something that's simple. And when you present an idea or a problem at a third grade level in 30 seconds with an emotional conclusion,
Right.
all of a sudden everybody grabs onto it. They get
Right,
that.
right,
There's
right.
something to hang on to. The problem is that the problem is the things we're dealing with are so immensely complex and integrated in so many different aspects to them here that there is no simple conclusion. You can't have
Right.
incremental movement over a 50-year period of 100 different things, and somebody picks one issue and says, if we just change this back the way it was, it'll be the same as it was. Nothing's
It's
ever
not
the
going to
same.
happen that way. No.
And
Yeah.
yet people's expectations of government, of the state, of local government, federal government, are to create these things, to change these things back. Look, when I was in I started high school in '69, got out in '73. We had wood shop, and
I
we had metal
graduated in
shop.
'65.
That's the difference here. But it's one of those things. But you probably
Yeah.
experienced the same thing. We'd bring guns to school, like our long guns, because we're going to do scroll work on the stock in wood shop.
Yeah.
And all they do is they say,
Or go hunting later in the day after
yes,
school.
Yes, and all they say is they'd say, please, at least put it in a gun case
Yeah.
when you're carrying it through the halls.
Or in the
Okay,
gun
got
rack
it.
into your truck.
Yes, and nobody was shooting anybody back then,
Yeah.
and there was just as many guns present and available. There's a different dynamic. I've run into some things through the years, and I've met the man personally, been to some seminars of his, because the thought was so intriguing. But there's a Colonel Dave Grossman out there that wrote a master's thesis that was ended up being published. That book is based on his master's thesis that's called On Killing. And he talks about the different desensitization that goes on through the video games and all the things out there that we had problems with engagement. People shooting at people in World War II, that they attempted to use these tactics that are described in the book during Vietnam, and we had about a 95% engagement rate. And all of a sudden, the things they're doing now, they did in a controlled environment in military training as people were 17, 18 years old, into their 20s kind of a thing. Now you have kids that are 5 and 6 years old having things that are 10 times as strong and influential, that are starting
Yes.
to do that are creating an expectation or a detachment from reality
Yeah.
on this. That's just another piece to the puzzle out there that I'm trying to assemble and find out what is the total package, or what do we actually need to address. There's always been bullying in schools.
Yes.
There's always been mental illness out there, but all these things play a role. How do we try and come together and figure out as a total package, what do we need to adjust to address this problem? And it's not as simple as it seems.
No, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And often government isn't the answer. It's you and me, our churches, our synagogues, our community groups, the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, the 4-H Club, all of those to step up. And quite frankly, we've been very blessed with some of our interns here who are what I will call overachievers. Okay? And it's frankly very refreshing to have those young people involved here, because you can read all the headlines and everything else, and then come in and meet a couple of folks that come in and go, there is hope, because you
Yes.
hear about the bad stuff. We need to talk about some of the good stuff some of our young folks are doing. I know we've kind of gotten off what happened in the legislative session and what you're running for, because you're going to come back anyway, right?
Kent, this is a running conversation.
Absolutely.
I'm available to you anytime.
Okay, you heard that.
Amen.
I'll call you tonight. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, first of all, most importantly, please say hi to Cynthia for me.
Done.
Okay, and next time bring her. Okay, because we need some good looks in the studio. All right.
If I do that, I'll be upstaged.
Well,
both
both of
be
us.
upstaged.
Both of us.
Amen.
Okay, it's a given.
Gosh.
All right. Thank you for your service. Both as a police officer, I'm not going to give you credit for being an attorney because, you know, I've got a business partner that's an attorney, and he's just one step ahead of me, and I was a used car salesman. So, but, and no, I wasn't.
I'll put it in my place.
Yeah,
Understood.
But I'm pleased to see people who will take some time out of their life, hopefully not make this a career for the rest of your life. I very much believe in citizen government, of getting in there and doing your thing and then moving on and finding some other people. In fact, there's a Republican running in this community for a third term, and I probably will vocally oppose that, because I think 2 terms, after spending 2 terms on or more on other things in the past, is enough government service.
Understood.
In the same position. Go do something different, okay? And I really believe that. I never used to be much of a term limits person, but given often the advantage, at least at the national level, of incumbents, I don't care which side you're on, they have an advantage. And so maybe at some point there needs to be some thinking about how we best approach that. Because again, I believe it's step up, contribute to the community through your service as a legislator or a mayor or whatever it may be, and then go back to real life and earn some stripes there too. So thank you for what you do, bud.
You've got
Okay,
the topic.
all right.
Next conversation. Right
Yes,
here.
right, in a couple weeks, right?
Amen.
Because you're home for a while.
Thank God.
Until they call a committee meeting. There really won't be much going on now between now and election, is there? I mean, there'll be a few committee meetings and things, but
There will be.
yeah.
There's
But probably
still a lot
not
of
the
work left to do.
the intense that you get after the
But
between
no
the first.
special sessions. Cross your
Oh
fingers.
God, yes,
That's it.
yes. Thank goodness for some things. Hey, thanks for watching Spokane Talks Live today. We'll see you next Tuesday, the 20th, right here. Have a good weekend.
Spokane Talks Live is produced in Spokane, Washington by Spokane Talks Online LLC, which is solely responsible for its content. To recommend a guest or topic, or to see this program again, please visit our website, SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Spokane Talks Live is brought to you by our friends at Homes for You and Breakthrough Incorporated. Join us next Wednesday, noon, for another nourishing conversation on Spokane Talks Live.